Well, first off here, I just want to get your take overall. Right now, we're seeing these pro-Israel protests that are showing up, but over the last week, we have seen a lot of these anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian protests. What goes through your mind as you're watching all of that unfold on these campuses across the country?
Well, we have a nation, Josh, that's built on the concept of becoming a more perfect union. I watched back in the 60s as I grew up in the Deep South, KKK, Jim Crow, and segregation, seeing these same kind of demonstrations, but of hate against Black people. And to tell you what the American people did, once they were aware of it, once they realized that there was an unfairness, that we were not moving in the right direction, that hate is not within our DNA, they stood up. We passed laws. They came together and would actually demonstrate with showing every type of American together against this hatred. We're going to be doing the same thing here. As you're going to start seeing, you see the difference in the way that America deals with demonstrations and getting our voices out, and those who believe in chaos, the Marxist ideology of destruction and chaos and anger. Our kids have been way too long been indoctrinated in these colleges that have been there for this process been going on for decades. We're now understanding it. We're now recognizing it. We're going to deal with it. That's the upside of seeing this evil, is that Americans finally realize that within our own country, within our institutions that we once trusted, we've been under attack for quite a while. And we're going to change that. And I look forward to November 5th. As Americans come together, we get a president that's going to really make a big difference and put our country back in shape in many ways. But of course, teaching our kids to love our nation is going to be one of the first priorities we'll have.
And what you're looking at on the left side of your screen there is actually out of Emory University there in the Atlanta area. That was yesterday, as you see those clashes that are taking place between police and the demonstrators. What do you say to people who are calling these protests essentially peaceful?
Well, I'll say this. Americans, they're trying to tell us, don't believe your lying eyes. Americans are smart. We see, we hear, we feel what's going on right now in our country, and we don't like it. There's a reason why Biden is underwater, because no matter what they tell us, what they try to explain away the misery that we're feeling, we see it, we feel it, we understand it, and we know who's at fault. We see an open border. We see what's going on our college campus, where our kids have no sense of empathy to what happened October 7th. That is not who we are. We're the country that has the big heart. We're the one country that goes out and serve, not the country that sits back and call people names because they're different than what we are. So what we're seeing right now is quite a contrast to the American dream, who we are as a country, and we're going to come back. Now that we're awake, thank goodness, as tough as it was, COVID, the BLM riots, October 7th, we're now saying, we have to fight for our souls again. And Americans are coming off the sidelines, off the bench, and we're saying, you know what, we're going to be part of this process, get engaged, and go out and vote to get our country back in shape and move toward the dream that we've always believed America is capable of.
And what you're looking at on your screen there is a live image out of New York City. It's at Columbia University, where we've seen a lot of these anti-Israel protests. And now you do have a pro-Israel protest that's been planned with dozens upon dozens of people. They are waving the flags for America and Israel. You also have the NYPD out there to make sure things do remain calm. So some lawmakers, based on what we've seen on the campus with the encampments, have actually called for Columbia's president to resign because of all this. I want to get your take on that. What are your thoughts overall?
It's no question. The president came before our hearing just last week and made promises that this would never happen, that the Jewish people would not be treated the way Black Americans were treated back in the 60s, that they would stand up and make sure people felt so. She's not doing that. She doesn't have the courage to do that. She needs to move a step aside. Understand this about what you're seeing right now. You're seeing Americans of all backgrounds, all colors, Jews, Blacks, whites, Christians, with no mask, peacefully. This is what peaceful protest looks like. This is what peacefully standing for our American way looks like. And so for those who think there's any other way, chaos is not who we are, and we're not going to make chaos become a now new word for protest in the American way. So we're gonna make sure we stand up against this for sure.
And as I mentioned, you are the chair of the Higher Education and Workforce Development Subcommittee. Do you think that all of this going on is distracting from higher education learning at these campuses, at these colleges and universities?
It's been a long time since we've really taught correctly at these universities. Keep in mind, we're dealing with the slow march of Marxism that started back in the 1930s. This is what the end game. When I talk about this, the young people that have no empathy, that are fighting police, calling police pigs, this is the goal of Marxism. So we now know this. We're going to change this trajectory. We have a conference that now says that education is a national security, is a priority for us, and we're going to make sure that our children, as they move from this education, and we're going to hold these people accountable, by the way. We do hold the power of the purse. If they cannot give us a good outcome, if they cannot teach our young people how to come out and build a nation and have a process which they have a big dream, then we're going to make sure that those funds goes to those institutions that are doing it the right way. So this is a great moment for us in terms of finally the curtain's being pulled back. Now we know, now we can start dealing with it. And as Americans come together, backgrounds, it doesn't matter because we're together and understand we want our country to do the best ever. And this is our time to make that happen. So I'm excited about where we're heading off to this point, Josh. We're gonna make changes, and it starts with November 5th. So make sure that everybody's listening. We need to make sure we win President Trump, a bigger majority in the House, in a Senate that's in control by the Republican Party, and we're gonna see the American dream come alive once again.
And I do want to take you back out to this video from Emory University just yesterday that was captured by our Fox 5 Atlanta team. Do you think that these protests here on the campuses are going to get more intense before they actually ease up?
They will get more intense until you have some backbone from these presidents. Every place, look at Texas, look at Florida. You see places where they understand rule of law and order, respect for those others, and the hate and the ending of hatred. Those places, the red states, the red districts understand this, are stopping it from the very beginning. Because when it comes down to accountability, these young people have no idea what it is to have accountability. How about some of these young people that are hating others? Do something else. Be expelled from school. Those who have these visas, go back home. And make sure that they don't come back again. There are consequences that'll make sure this ends immediately. We just need to see some backbone, some courage from presidents and leaders to make that happen.
My last question here before I let you go. What do you say to these protesters? What message do you have for them overall?
Understand, when you have people indoctrinated, and again, I went through this as a youngster, there's nothing you can say to people who hate. There's something they have to work through. Some of them will continue to hate. Others will learn to one day regret the hate that they were taught by the adults. But I'll say this to American people. We have a country that's the greatest in the history of mankind. I lived through the process, which we dealt with this back in the 60s. We no longer deal with the Black Americans this way. We need to make sure we do not allow this Marxists to have us dealing with whites or Jews this way. We should be looking at each other from inside out, not outside in. That is what is becoming a more perfect union. And we're gonna get back to that because now we see what it looks like to have the wrong folks in charge with our children, our kids, and again, all the way from K through 12. They're training them to hate, and we're not gonna allow that to happen because we love our country too much and we love our kids too much.
All right, Representative Burgess Owens, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and talk about all of this. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
I have never been more excited about our country than today, as crazy as it is, as we see the chaos that Marxists are putting around our country, crime, the open border, fentanyl. The thing is, we finally see it. And there's nothing more powerful than we the people, no matter what side I always sit on, Democrats, Independents, Republicans, when those of us who love our country, those of us who love our families and our businesses and our freedom, we are now talking like we never have before. We're identifying the problem. It is Biden. President Biden has been the worst anti-American president we've ever seen in our history. And his policies and those around him, that are the Marxist ideology, we need to make sure we get rid of them and train up and put our country back into shape and move toward the dream that America has always been, that draws millions from around the world because of what we stand for. So we're on our way back, and I'm excited about making sure that November 7th is the beginning of that process.